Welcome back. Now on to some state capture news then. Private contractor Charl Le Roux has confirmed that he did some electrical repairs for the former minister Nomvula Mokonyane's Krugersdorp home. Le Roux has told the State Capture Commission of Inquiry that he did indeed fix outside lighting, water features and a backup power system. Now, at the time, he was working as an apprentice electrician for a relative who was the recipient of numerous Bosasa contracts to do repairs at various politicians' homes. All right, let's continue to get a little bit more on this story. Then we cross over to my colleague Mbalenhle Mthethwa to perhaps shed a little more light on this story. Mbalenhle, private contractor Charl Le Roux agreeing that indeed he did do those repairs and having formed part of those numerous Bosasa contracts, clearly the linkage is right there, even with the former minister Nomvula Mokonyane.
Yes, indeed, Arabile. If you heard this morning, if you were listening in this morning, you would have heard that the former minister, Nomvula Mokonyane, has denied in an affidavit that she deposed to the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. She denied ever receiving the monthly payments that Angelo Griti alleges that she had received. And we understand that based on Angelo Griti's evidence and testimony before the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, he's implicated a number of politicians and a number of people who were said to have received monthly payments from the now defunct Bosasa. Essentially, she has denied all of that, but we also heard Angelo Griti during his testimony last year talking about some security upgrades that were done at various ministers and politicians' homes, and one of those homes was the home of Nomvula Mokonyane, the former Minister of Water and Sanitation, and essentially she's also denied that. However, we have this contractor Charl Le Roux coming in and confirming that he did in fact go to the home of Nomvula Mokonyane and did do some upgrades and some security upgrades, as well some CCTV, as well as do some repairs in terms of the water feature that we just heard him speak of, as well as some lights and so on. But something else that also came up during today's sitting is a very fancy car that Charl claims that he saw at the home of Nomvula Mokonyane. He says that he saw an Aston Martin, and he says he particularly remembers that because he likes cars, and it is a fancy and very expensive and pricey car that he saw. So he was very interested, and he says the car was parked next to the guard shed, and he said he needed to get to the back of the house in order to fix a backup generator, and that's how he came to see the car. Even though the car was covered, he could tell that it was an Aston Martin.
Mbali, do we know who that car then belongs to, and what does it actually say then about the scenario we currently sit in? Does that car perhaps then belong to somebody prominent? Do we know if that is perhaps Nomvula Mokonyane's vehicle, private vehicle that is, and perhaps attained by other means or anything of the sort?
You know, it's quite interesting that you would see such a pricey car and that you would hear evidence relating to a pricey car being parked at the home of a minister, especially when there are allegations that they were the recipient of monthly payments from a very questionable company, a company that we've now known and learned to be questionable, such as Bosasa. And we understand under the circumstances which many of these politicians are alleged to have received these monthly payments, it is quite questionable given that, you know, this is a very luxurious car and it is not. And there's no understanding how a minister, I'm not saying that I know how much ministers and politicians earn, but essentially the question that is being asked on social media is how much is an Aston Martin, and can politicians afford to buy such a luxurious car, essentially. But essentially, we've heard this testimony coming forward, and we've also heard that Nomvula Mokonyane has denied most of the allegations that have been leveled against her. And essentially, the Commission will continue to look at Bosasa-related evidence when it returns and resumes later on this week. We understand that Charl did conclude his testimony today. However, he couldn't carry on. The next witness couldn't carry on because of a technical issue, which is the issuing of a Section 3.3, where you inform those who will be implicated in the coming evidence or testimony that is to be heard before the Commission haven't really been sent out, or haven't the witnesses or the people who be implicated parties have not received those notifications. And so for that reason, there's going to be that short recess until the next sitting. Essentially, he has concluded his testimony, and at the center of this is, who does the car belong to, and him confirming that he indeed did do refurbishments at the home of the former minister.
Mbalenhle Mthethwa, appreciate your time. Look, it certainly continues to trickle along, does the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, at a snail's pace, really, if one was to look at it. So that's certainly the case on that front.